Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Discovering Multifamily Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Scandariato with Red Knight Properties. And today we have a special guest here with us, Larry Sprung. And Larry is one of the founders, actually, he is the founder and wealth advisor at Mitlin Financial, which is a wealth management firm named in the memory of his wife's grandfather, Mitchell, and his mother, Linda. He's an Investopedia 100 top advisors for 2021, and he currently sits on the board, on the national board and finance committee for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And we're going to talk a little bit about that and talking about the importance of having a purpose behind everything that you do in life, and obviously, in business it translates over. He has some real estate experience as well, so we're going to talk about that. But I really want to talk about the importance it is to have a reason and a why and a mission behind everything you're doing, because at the end of the day, if you're just looking to make money, especially and even in any industry you're in, but particularly in the real estate industry, I see a lot of people just looking to get rich quick, and that's not how it works. And even if your goal is to just get rich, why do you want to get rich? What's the purpose and mission behind that? There has to be a reason for it. Is it to retire your parents if they're still living, or create a better life for your family? There's many different reasons, but just to get rich, in my opinion, is not a reason. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, because Larry has a very interesting story and a why behind his business and his mission. So Larry, really appreciate you coming on the show today and giving us your advice.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Anthony. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate it, and look forward to a great conversation that hopefully has a great impact on your audience and your listenership.
Great. So what does Mitlin mean? And can you talk about what you guys do and your passions and the reason why you're in this?
Yeah, sure. So again, thanks for having me. Mitlin Financial and our firm and the name of our firm happens to be the most asked question that we get. Being a financial services firm or a financial firm, people think about, think our most widely asked question is, what stock should I buy? What bond or whatever, investment related, but it's not the case. It's, they know that nobody here at the firm has the name or the last name Mitlin. So that is the most asked question. So the origin of it is MIT comes from my wife's grandfather, Mitchell, and LIN comes from my mother, Linda. And the two of them passed away literally within hours of each other. And then roughly a month or two later, I met my wife. Which is ironic. And the only way we kind of figured it out is as we started chatting, it was like, well, why are you here? What's been going on in your life? And it was, my grandfather passed away and my mom passed away. And we started reconciling it and really came to the conclusion that they passed away literally within hours of each other. So when I was looking to launch my firm and go independent and launch my my investment firm, wealth management firm, we thought no better way than to use these individuals' names and put them together for the name of the firm, because quite frankly, they were two great people. My wife's grandfather was a veteran, a police officer, great values, great family life. And my mom, she suffered from breast cancer for a long time, had a tremendous battle, probably one of the biggest fighters that I know and I met. And even though I only had her around for a short time, she left an indelible mark on me and the community. I mean, she was very well liked, admired, and looked up to. And, it was like, hey, these are two great people, great values. What a great way to start a firm and start building a firm then on the basis of these two people's names and their legacies. And that's really how it came to fruition.
Excellent. So that's a great story and very unique, I would say. So that leads us into discussion on, financial independence and planning and some of the other initiatives that you take as a company. So let's talk about that and some of the reasons why you're focusing on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of why we're in the industry, or I'm in the industry that I'm in, a lot has to do with, the way that I was raised and my childhood, really. I did not come from a wealthy family, but I did not come from a poor one either. I had a traditional middle class childhood. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, my mom was sick at a very young age, and from a very young age in terms of me as well. So I saw my dad struggle with, managing a couple of jobs to pay bills, to take care of healthcare expenses, to take care of my mom and make sure that she got to and from appointments and doctors, et cetera. And, one thing that I realized as I continued to get older was he did not have a financial advisor. Now, let me be clear, having a financial advisor would not have gotten rid of the problems. My mom still would have been sick. He would have still had challenges. But my feeling is that had there been a financial advisor or somebody assisting him, it could have made that ride and that situation a bit smoother. So, that left an indelible mark on me. And then as I started going through college and starting to test out different avenues, essentially, I'll make a very long story short. In between my junior and senior year of college, I took an internship, and I'm going to date myself, with Dean Witter at the time, and essentially really enjoyed that. And I also had an opportunity to I was cold calling for a picture company. So I liked the finances. I liked financial planning because of the impact that I had during my childhood. And I didn't mind talking to strangers over the phone. I kind of put that all together and said, financial advisor, wealth management would be a great path for me. So that's what I took straight out of college. And I've been here ever since. And essentially what our goal is to help people navigate what we call critical financial events. And critical financial events could be planned or could be unplanned. And some planned events could be buying your first house, getting married, buying an investment property, or they could be unplanned. It could be a death or disability or divorce, or having to sell a property, right? So there could be planned or unplanned, but if you have a plan, a financial plan in place, again, it's not going to mitigate those critical financial events, but the hope and the goal is that it mitigates some of the volatility and the uncertainty that goes along with it. And that's essentially what we do. We help and advise our clients to make their lives smoother, so that we have a plan in place, so that when things or if things go awry, we can help them navigate those situations and very easily understand what the impact of the critical financial event or event will have on their life today and perhaps going forward, and how to eliminate some of that uncertainty.
Great. And you mentioned a little bit about the mental health initiative. Can you talk about that and, the purpose behind that and everything you're doing as well? Because I love what you said in terms of this is how you were, raised, and you want to pass it on to future generations, so to speak, through your business as well. I think that's really cool. So can you talk about the mental health aspect you mentioned?
Yeah. So in 2004, we had the unfortunate situation where we lost my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, to suicide. He suffered from bipolar disorder. And unfortunately, he just couldn't, figure out a way to navigate this situation, and ultimately, died by suicide. So, and ironically or not ironically, it was about a month before I was planning to launch Mitlin Financial. And there was a debate as to whether or not I should go ahead or not. And my wife said that, Keith, my brother-in-law, would have wanted me to go ahead with it. So we did do that. And ever since then, along with my firm, I've been a staunch advocate for mental health, suicide prevention and awareness. And my wife and I collectively, with a greater community of people, people through our network, people in the author community, romance authors in particular, as well as all of the generous folks that know us, collectively, we've raised in excess of about $1.5 million for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention in my brother-in-law's name. And I think even more importantly than that, by using his name as a platform to have these conversations and start bringing it out of, mental illness and suicide prevention out of the darkness, I think even more important than the money has been the impact that we've had and the ability to help people save lives, in terms of we've now become a resource for people as far as helping them navigate the space, find resources that could potentially help them. And, we know for a fact that there have been lives saved just because of our involvement. And that in itself is worth all the work in the world. And, we live it every day. We told my brother-in-law that we wouldn't let him go quietly. And, ever since his passing in 2004, we have not allowed that to happen, and have had a great impact on the greater community. And I think with help like us and other even more well-known folks, like some of the celebrities and athletes that we've seen coming out and speaking on the topic, that's how we're going to lower the stigma and everything that surrounds mental health and mental illness, and really make some strides and help people find and seek and get the help that they need. Because quite frankly, there was no difference between my brother-in-law and his battle with mental illness and my mom and her battle with cancer. It's just that, one, you were able to see and understand what was going on, the other one, not so much. And I think as we work towards that, it's going to become more of a mainstream, and people will find the help and get what they need and deserve, quite frankly.
Yeah, no, and I really liked what the whole premise of what you're saying, turning a really terrible situation, not around, but just making, putting a positive spin on it in terms of what you're doing now and how you're able to, improve awareness in that community. And like you said, it seems to be trending in the way of becoming more mainstream, which is excellent, because it's it is a cause that's been, in my opinion, underlooked for decades. So I think that's great. Could you provide, as we're talking about this, any advice? And I kind of alluded to this before. A lot of people in the real estate industry, particularly whether it's multifamily or office or any commercial real estate, they don't really have a purpose behind what they're doing. I mean, our company, our purpose is to help more individuals become financially independent through real estate, and that's with passive income. But a lot of people I see just get into real estate because they think they can make money and it's a job. How do you define more of your purpose and why behind your business? Because a lot of times I've seen, if you don't have that, your business kind of don't really have a direction, and it kind of, you might have some early success, but you kind of falter out. How can you, assist individuals in kind of figuring out, okay, why are they doing this? Why are they buying properties? In this whether it's area specific, why do they want to improve this area? Any advice you have in terms of just trying to get real estate investors a little bit more focused behind why they're real estate investors?
Yeah, I think this applies, as I think you even alluded to in the intro, Anthony, that, having a why, I think, is more important than ever. It may not have been as important 15 or 20 years ago, but, it's so communal like now with regards to social media and people following you and LinkedIn and all these avenues that are out there, that I think if you don't have a why, people figure you out, very quickly, and typically if you don't have a why, there's usually some other motivating factor out there that's not a why, like you mentioned, like just making money. That's not really just a why. There's got to be, people are very interested and compelled to get behind a greater good, whatever that greater good is. And you have to be able to communicate that greater good to your clients and potential prospects and audience, because that's really what's going to draw people into you, right? If you don't have that why, you're not going to be drawing anybody into you. You're just going to be putting stuff out there, and you're probably going to be attracting people that you don't necessarily want to work with, do business with, or network with, quite frankly. So having that why really puts out almost like a radar gun of attraction to attract the people that, you want to network with, that you want to do business with, that want to do business with you. So you really have to look at it. And if it's real estate, for example, which is the majority of your audience, just going to buy a piece of property in an area and saying, I want to buy this because it has good income potential, that might work. It might work for property one, and it might work for a period of time. But as you want to start building a portfolio, you may not be as successful doing that over time, right? Whereas if you have a purpose, and we could just kind of make one up here, right? If my purpose is, looking at a specific area and improving it, and whatever that metric of improvement is, well, now you know exactly what your goals are and what your motives are as a company. So our goal is to improve such and such an area, and our metrics are going to be this. And we're only going to look at or talk to property owners or potential purposes that are going to help us reach that mission. Also, if you're looking for outside investors, right, it's going to also attract those people who are looking to do that same thing as you. The old adage in real estate, I don't have to tell you or your listeners, used to be, and still is, location, location, location. I agree with that. But I think if you marry the location component with that purpose component, you can exponentially grow your portfolio, your income stream, and the benefits that you're providing to whatever community or area that you're looking to improve or make real estate purchases in.
Yeah, and as real estate investors, what advice would you have in terms of like we said, you start out, you buy an income producing property, maybe you buy a second one and you're having some really success. And that's okay. That's actually great. But at some point, like you said, you have to kind of figure out, okay, what's the next step? And then what's the driving force behind why I'm taking the next step? What piece of advice would you have for our community, to kind of start out with a why? Because I think you can have a easier success trajectory if you start out with a reason and not just kind of wing it, because I've seen that happen multiple times.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 1,000%. I think most people, see something or see someone or see something that's going on that gets them interested in real estate, and they start immediately diving in. And like you said, and I couldn't have said it better, is I don't know that that's the greatest way. The first one may work out. It may work out irrespective of your situation. But I think if you're thinking about, or you even have the thought of going in and delving into real estate, whether single or multifamily, doesn't even matter. I think you got to sit down beforehand and say, okay, why am I doing this? Why do I want to get involved in real estate? And if the only reason is money, I would say find something else, because if that's the only reason, you're getting involved with it, you might make some money, but you're also bringing on a bunch of headaches that, you're probably not thinking of at that moment because you're focused on the money. And it's going to be not a fun ride and probably a little bit painful. But if you come at it and start thinking about and putting together even like a mission or a vision statement in a light format, so you understand what your mission is, what your vision is, and what that why really encompasses, when those troubling times come, you're going to push through it because you're going to be focused on the why. It's not going to be that I got to get somebody in to fix this or fix that. It's just going to be something that you're going to say, hey, I have to do this because I need to do it to get to my why. And I think that clarifies a lot of stuff. And if you can't come up with a why, in a relatively short period of time, at least a baseline, it doesn't have to be in its final format. But if you can't come up with a why in a relatively short period of time, I would suggest you probably want to look somewhere else and figure out a different method to accomplish whatever you thought you were going to accomplish with real estate, because you're probably not going to be able to do it in that fashion.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Larry. No, this is a great conversation. Really appreciated it. And by the way, Larry is a former college hockey player. What do you love about hockey?
I love everything about hockey. So It's probably the only sport I follow religiously. I'm a New York Ranger fan, but I was just recently out in Vegas for the Vegas Kraken, the Vegas Seattle Kraken game, which was the first Seattle Kraken game ever held. They just recently also had their first home game in their Climate Pledge Arena. You want to talk about purpose? The Climate Pledge Arena. If you don't know what it is, you don't know who the Seattle Kraken are, look it up. Big piece of real estate, cost them 1.15 billion with a B to build it. And they will probably make that money back in a relatively short period of time, because it's the one of few that it's a carbon neutral arena. And it's in Seattle, and that's why they call it the Climate Pledge Arena. They have a purpose. They built it around a purpose. So huge hockey fan. I have one son in college playing down in Philadelphia at Drexel, and another son out in Minnesota at prep school. So a lot of my free time is spent watching professional hockey and watching the minor hockey that my boys play as well.
Excellent. Well, go Rangers, as I'm up in the New York area as well. Larry, how can my audience find you, learn more about you, reach you?
They can find me anywhere. I'm across all social media platforms. They can find me predominantly by looking up Lawrence Sprung, Lawrence Sprung. The only one Instagram, I'm Larry Sprung, because it was already taken. And then I also have a podcast, which we do have some guests on there that talk about purpose, talk about mindset, and we also occasionally touch on real estate as well, which is the Mitlin Money Mindset. We have guests that I think are interesting to our audience and interesting to me, and we have some great conversations as a result of it on the show.
Great. Well, Larry, thank you so much for joining the Discovering Multifamily Podcast. If you liked what you heard and or saw today, please give us a rating and review on iTunes. It would help Larry and my message get out to a greater audience. That's just the way it works. So we would really appreciate that if you can give us a rating and review, and look forward to speaking to you again soon, Larry. Thanks again.
Hey, thank you, Anthony. I appreciate the time.